Hello. Today I'm talking with Gábor Bittera. We talked about writing a user manual that needs to be understood internationally, about not taking a taxi, and the job to get to the job. I'm Ivanul from Who's Agile. My pronouns are he and him. Welcome to my channel. You see a lot of agilists around me on this screen. If you want to hear me interviewing, please click that subscribe button because these are the people that I've invited so far. If you think I'm missing people, let me know in the comments. And that like button, well, if you like today's interview, don't forget to click it. Hello, everyone, and hello with me. I have Gabor. Is that how I should pronounce your name?
Yes. That's that's the first thing people usually ask. Is this how is this pronounced? Is it Gabor? Is it Gabor? Is it Gabor? Well, for
Mhm.
Hungarians, people, for my people, if I just use that term, it's quite a vague term. For them, it's Gabor, but anybody outside Hungary, Gabor is fine. Gabor is fine. If you try your best, and that will be a good attempt.
Okay, well, thanks for explaining that a bit more. I want to also show people a little bit on where we are, and I am in Belgium at this very moment, so in Ghent. And if I ask Google to go to where you are, if I'm correct, you're in Woking, UK. Is that?
That's absolutely right. Yes,
And
that's the place I am. Yeah.
let's bring you back on screen. And what's the time zone here? For me, it's 9 o'clock on and well, 9 minutes after nine to be exactly on a Sunday morning. What's the time on your side?
It's 1 hour. I'm 1 hour behind, so it's 8:09 here in the UK.
So we see that we're a little bit different time zone wise, a lot further, I would say, in miles or kilometers. But that's how we roll these days with all these
Hmm.
tools recording on the internet. Now, for the people, the few people that don't know you, could you, before we start with the questions, introduce a little bit yourself? Who are you?
Yeah. So my name is Gabor Bittera, and I'm an agile coach, Scrum Master, something like that. I work in the agile space for the last 7 and 8 years, and I have been a Scrum Master for a couple of teams. Before that, I used to be a technical writer, and before that, I used to be a teacher. And I'm sure that these things have all added to what I'm doing today. But for now,
Wow.
I'm a, I'm a Scrum Master and Agile
And
coach.
and when you say technical writer, could you say some more? What's the kind of books or what kind of articles you were writing about?
Actually, it is more about manuals. So if you buy a
Mm.
product, it comes with a manual
And
usually.
might there be a product that I know that you've written the manual for?
It is something that your mobile device might know, because I was doing this for telecommunications companies who are actually putting together the antenna, the radio network, and the core network that your mobile phone uses.
Mm.
So I was working for Nokia, and I was working for Samsung, and for example, the network operator, 3 in the UK uses Samsung hardware, and I'm pretty sure that Nokia is there must be some Nokia units in most probably telecoms companies all over the world.
So we might be using one of these right now, uh,
Yeah, it's
but
it, it,
not
it can
looking at the
happen.
manual like many people, because that I can imagine that for a technical writer, the phrase, the typical phrase, read the F manual, because many people don't read it. So were there ever moments that you thought, oh, I'm writing something, will people ever read this? Is that something you sometimes thought?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did, because there are so many in network control. There are so many messages going around, and each message has a very specific error meaning, or
Hmm.
an error message. And when you really put together a manual with thousands and thousands of these error messages, and this is not something core that people will read, network operators. But if they get an error message and 1550, then they go to this manual. This is a reference material, and then they will look at, okay, what does that actually mean? And then you really ask, I'm printing out 10,000s of this network errors. Will anybody read it? Probably not. But if they do, they are
Well,
fixing fixing an error, and actually, it does have meaning,
value.
and it does have purpose, does have value. Yeah.
Yeah, but because if I think about the manuals that I have lying around somewhere at the bottom of that thing there, of that library, I think the error messages are the most. I'm actually one of these people. When I install something, I try to read the manual. But let's face it, the one part of the manual I use most is the error messages. Is about, okay, there's something going wrong. I'm
Troubleshooting.
not sure if I always read it on the paper version. I typically look on Google and end up with the same manual than in a digital form than I have probably lying around. But I still have trouble throwing away these manuals for, yeah, especially for networking things. I would do that because if I would have a networking problem, I would not be able to Google. So I'll definitely need that manual. So that in that sense,
Yeah.
that is an important part. Um, and I think it's sometimes, well, a skill that is underestimated in yeah, developing things that, well, first of all, creating good error messages. Okay, that was not
Hmm.
your mess, but then explaining what it means,
What it
how
means,
to
and
solve it.
and how to solve it, and where to go in the big manual to actually fix it. Yeah, we were doing a lot of that. A lot of that.
That's well, thank you for everyone who has ever been blocked by a networking problem. I think that's already, but that's a cool little side story. I really like that because it's something that not many people always understand, how
Hmm.
important that is. But you only know it at the real moment that you're stuck, and then you really need to find that answer. And then you're happy that there is someone like you who wrote a piece that is because that's I think this is the hardest part of the job, is trying to explain it in a way that an end user understands it, not in the way the developers explains it to you, because that's a totally different world, I would say.
Yes, and the other challenge is these manuals are printed at one place and are used at a completely different place. And we wrote these manuals in Budapest, or in the UK or wherever, but people in South Africa must be able to understand that. People in South America, in Australia, in Asia, people will need to understand it. So we really need to write in a simple way, using a very, very limited vocabulary, to explain very complex things about radio networks and about mobile networks, about how it works. And you are constrained by language. You can't use very nice words and long words. You really need to focus on using 600 words, and you need to use those words as building blocks to build a manual that explains a complex thing in simple terms.
Yeah, I agree that that is an important part, and definitely an underestimated part. Okay, let's move to that very first question. What is something that people usually don't know about you, but has influenced you in who you are?
I think I didn't quite understand the value of this when I when you are in this position. I think the fact that I'm coming from the other side of the Iron Curtain, it is something that is shaping people in certain ways. Yeah,
Mm.
I think coming from the eastern part of Europe, which is a bit less developed, and you need to be a bit more creative when it comes to solving certain problems in organizations, in administration, like government and that sort of thing. That attitude is something that is not straightforward for people when they interface with me. And of course, because I have lived in the UK for 10 years, a lot of it has eroded. A lot of it has been worn off, because uh, this is a very rule abiding country, and Hungary is not really a rule abiding country. And but it leads to creative solutions. It leads to creative thinking. It leads to thinking outside the box, and it might be liberating at times to look at things from this perspective, I guess.
Mm, right. And so, could you give an example of some of these, of one of these differences? If you still know them, because they're or they maybe a little bit gone,
Yeah,
but
they there is just some really hard grit in people that try a new life in another country, in a Western country. And there is this hardwood attitude, I would call. Yeah, that I'm going to find my place here. It will take a while. I will take roots here. And you can throw challenges at me, and I will just power through them and do it my way. It might not be nice, it might not be friendly, it might not be you know uh, diplomatic, but I will
mm,
get there. I will get there because I am on a mission or something like this. It is very difficult for me to put my finger on it, um, but I think it is there somewhere. This sort of Eastern European upbringing.
I really like that as an example, because indeed, I don't know the exact story anymore, but I remember a story about a woman somewhere behind the Iron Curtain. I don't remember or a woman. I mean, it was a joke told when I was young about a
Hmm.
woman behind the Iron Curtain. I don't know the country anymore, but it was something like, yeah, asking about a woman that she was doing a lot of stuff, and then it's like, yeah, what? But still, somehow I don't know the exact details anymore. It was like, yeah, you seem to be a little bit slow today, and then it turns out that she was doing a lot of stuff while had given birth like an hour before, 2 hours before. And it's
Yeah,
like, yeah, okay, that's in Belgium we would have been 5 days, or even at that time 10 days in the hospital, and there's like, yeah, I just gave birth, and then there is a household to do and everything. So yeah,
yeah. So
that's the image I get.
so you were asking me about an example. I started to work in the UK in the winter of 2013. And at that time, there was a big flood in the UK, in the southeast, and I was just starting out in a new role, and I was living outside the town where I was working, in a small rural area, in maybe something that one could call a farm or a manor. I rented a room there, and the area around me was flooded for 3 weeks, and I didn't have a car. The only thing I had was a bike, and I every morning going to work, I needed to go through the flood. I was knee down in minus in zero temperature water, or maybe 1 or 2 or 3 degrees in Celsius. It was January. Yeah, it was February. I don't remember it anymore. But every day to going to work, I was wet until my knees. Every day coming back from work to home, I got wet until my knees in Thames, basically, because that's the river that was flowing next to my place. And I said, I just need to do this now. This is what life threw at me, and I just have to stand my ground. And there was absolutely the opportunity that I would call in working from home, but I was just starting out in a new role, so no way I will do that. And that was a regular occurrence for 1 or 2 or 3 weeks, I don't remember. Getting flooded, getting wet on the way to work, then changing to formal attire with nice shirts and all that stuff, and then changing back again into a wet pair of
You want
trousers,
to
and
go home.
going home again, and doing that on multiple occasions. That is one of the things I'm not dismissing the idea that maybe somebody from the West wouldn't do it, but that's the
No, but
usual feeling that I get from people in some spaces, that yeah, if they have a headache, or if the car doesn't work, or if there is some traffic congestion, people just don't go in the office, and they will say, I can't go to the office. And that not going to the office was very much there for me, but I still said, nah, I just need to go to the office, and yeah, I'm going to be drenched by the time I get there, but that's something I have to do now.
I recognize that in a way. We sometimes say that people in the West are sometimes like, yeah, they don't realize what they have, and they're like, yeah, they have some kind of idea of privilege into them. Like, okay, then it's not an option. Where you have the opposite, and I've seen it sometimes with, and this is why I like working with people, or not from the West. Again, it's not about not liking working with people from the West, but there is indeed something I recognize with people
Hmm.
from other countries, in the way that they really like, they realize that, hey, this is what I want to do, and sometimes challenges are a little bit harder.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm working these days with people from that are living in Ukraine, Lviv, and talking about very hard conditions. That's
Yeah.
and I'm always amazed about the energy that these people are putting in. And I'm not saying there are no bad days, and there's not nothing about that, but it's I and I literally can see it when people had a bad night's sleep, and things like that. But they're still there trying to do the work with all the hardship. Yeah, and that keeps amazing me. These
Hmm.
kind of attitude, I would say, attitude at that kind of level.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's a very nice story to do, and indeed something that when growing up we typically don't realize, and then later on you mention, you meet other people, and it's like, oh, okay, that's a little bit different. And for us, if you're living in that area, you just see everybody else doing it in a certain way, like, okay, today is a little bit harder, and I will just do that before I can actually start to do my job. Because that's so nice about your story. It's not about the hard job, it's about the job to getting to the job. Yeah.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
that's that's
And then also, like, getting my wife and my kids over to the UK. We didn't have a car in the first, I think, 6 months, and then getting all the bits off eBay, because we couldn't afford to buy new things, so we had to buy secondhand in the area. And I always went out with a single speed bike to get uh, toys home, or get maybe, I think the biggest thing that I ever carried in a backpack was, I think, a microwave oven. And yeah, I'm not going to book a cab. I don't want to spend money on that just because I I I need to get a microwave oven home. So I will just tape it to my back, on my backpack. I will just use tape to tape it to my backpack, and I will just go home with it. And that's if it takes 40 minutes, it will take 40 minutes. That's cool.
yeah, I recognize that attitude. I also had moments that, like, oh, I would take a bus, and the bus would, either I would miss a bus, or would still have to wait, like, sometimes, like, okay, let's just walk to the next station just to get there already. Not that I would be home faster, because of course the bus would still
it would
same thing,
it
but
would still be the same bus. Yeah.
exactly, it would still be the same bus. Well, if I had missed the bus, then of course that might be faster, but in most cases it would still be the bus. But it was just a kind of challenge. Can I get to that next station in the time? And then
Mhm.
again, there's like how much time is there for the next? And so yeah, it became a game for me at some times, but it's that kind of attitude, like okay, let's not take the easy road and let's see
Yeah.
that. I really like that, and I do see that a lot more in non-Western people, I would say. So
Mhm.
thanks for sharing that. I want to go to that next question. If you had not been doing what you've been doing now, what would have become of you? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, I think music was an important part of my teenage years, and actually two of my former bandmates have made it to the music industry, business, whatever. One of them is a
Wow.
drummer. One of them is a drummer in progressive rock and jazz sort of formations, and the
And
other one is a
someone I might know, or
no, I'm not. I don't think so. But I just look at his achievements with amazement, because he has always been an amazing drummer, and the other person is a bass guitarist and a cellist. But you know, they are both living their lives in the music industry, and they enjoy it. I'm not sure that I would be a good singer, or as good a singer as they are in their own instruments, but that's the very most of optimistic scenario, that I would be singing in some in some band, or on some stage, but that's quite unlikely to happen. I think I would still be teaching. That's a more realistic
music?
scenario.
Mhm.
That's a
Yeah,
more
but I
realistic
see. Well,
scenario.
I yeah, even in Belgium, I know some people who played in as a a bass player or a guitarist in famous bands, but then more as hired as a freelancer. So you don't know that they're actually hired when you see the
Yeah.
band on stage. But then things are a lot slower at some point. So yeah, they well, what people forget is that some of these maybe even more known, and I'm talking now local area, not if you're touring
Yes.
worldwide, of course, but if you're touring locally, that a lot of people make money out of teaching and a lot of other stuff,
In addition
because
to
that's in
in
addition to
addition
the
to
exactly.
producing music, or going to and you know, playing on gigs and concerts and all that stuff. Yeah, they do that a lot, and I just say, wow, what a life, what a life.
It's something people choose and then do, and then it's they basically again do the job to get to the job, so they do another job to get money so that they can do the job or that they really
Yeah.
like to do. And it's amazing, and it brings so much joy to other people going to the concerts or listen to the music that has been
Hmm.
produced and everything. So that's it's a nice story, and it reminds us indeed about how different our lives can go in our world. Um, and and when we keep connecting with these people, I can imagine that there is always some kind of or not always, but sometimes a memory flashing back, like, oh, okay, I
Yes.
used to play with these people, and I know their well, all their quirks as well, because sometimes they're like, yeah, they might be good, but yeah, rehearsing with that guy was maybe not that the nice thing. He was
Yeah,
nice on stage, but
and the fun thing is that these are all memories that go back to the time when I was like 17 or 18, and I was, you know, I didn't know at that time, but they were quite formative years for me. But yeah, I'm not sure that that's where I would have ended up. I think teaching and translating, that would be probably the job that I would be doing today, if I had not been brought over to IT.
So that's yeah, it's and it's I'm always amazed by how many musicians that we have in IT and in agile space even more.
Oh, we have
I
a
would
lot.
say.
We have a lot. I think that connects people because it just gives them something to discuss and something to talk about. I have been in one occasion. I have been in a band that had one rehearsal from a company. From we were working at the same company, and we had every instrument that we needed to set up a rock band. And then the drummer came, a guitarist came, and somebody else who was playing the guitars also came. There were two singers, we had a bass player, and okay, can we just after work we just go to a rehearsal studio, and we spent 4 hours there, and we discussed what we would be playing, what we would be rehearsing. It was great fun, and we still cherish that day. It only happened once. Going out with your workmates after hours and just spend some time playing music. It was fun.
I can imagine that these are yeah fun memories to hold back to. So that is really nice to remember and to cherish these friendships and to cherish life in a way. That's
Hmm.
thanks for sharing that with all of us. I want to move to that next question. Um, what do you consider your biggest challenge today, or at least the biggest one that you want to put out open on the internet, and why is that a good thing for you?
Oh, there are multiple things that are challenging right now. One might be, I think, I am I'm teaching Scrum, and I'm also preparing for the hardest Scrum exam known on the world right now, which is PSM3. And I think that those challenges are a good thing for me, because they just force me to understand more about Scrum when I'm thinking about this, when I'm exploring it, when I'm trying to explain things to people who don't have the experience that I have. So I think that would be the one of the biggest challenges these days, is how can I create an environment where people can experience Scrum outside the world of IT. My students, how can I make Scrum relatable to my students while while I'm teaching them. That is a big challenge.
Because yeah, the training room is very artificial, and then they go back to life, and then they are in the real life, and it's like, oh, will this, I don't want to call it trick, but okay, trick, or will this idea that I've learned, will it work here again? And if so, how do I apply it? And yeah, because
Hmm.
that is
Yeah,
indeed
and
and can you give some examples on how you deal with these kind of challenges?
yeah. So what we did is, instead of teaching Scrum on a 2-day course, we are putting together a 2-month adventure where
Wow.
people attend the course on, let's say, Tuesday and Thursday evenings for 2 hours. So that's like 4 hours each week. And when we learn about the concepts in Scrum, the people in Scrum, the artifacts, the events, and how these rules are bound together. And then from Thursday to next Tuesday, they are building a product, a digital product, because they are all over Hungary usually. And they build something together in a sort of a simulated Scrum team environment.
Mhm.
And they always rotate the Scrum Master role between them. And this way, on Thursday, we end our our class together with a sort of a light touch sprint planning, when I, as a product owner, explain, or set out what I would love them to achieve. I set a proposal for a sprint goal. We work on the sprint goal together. They select items into the backlog, and then we start working. They start working on it, and they reach out to me for feedback. And on Tuesday, the next Tuesday, we start with the sprint review and the retrospective. And they bring a digital bring a digital increment of a product to the sprint review. I look at it, we observe it together. I give them feedback. I have a stakeholder as well who is giving them feedback, and then they go to the retrospective, and we do this. This is the reason why the course is 2 months, because between every Thursday and the next Tuesday, they have a sprint essentially. And
And could
this
you give
way,
an example of what kind of product that they're working on? What?
it is something that something that they can work on together. Yeah, that something that is digital. Usually it's on Canva, usually it's on Miro. It's a lot of pictures and collages. It's very few words. Some teams have created a slideshow together. uh, Anything. It is something that they want to do. Yeah. um, let's say, let's plan a world trip on a sailboat. Hmm? How would that look like? How would the first iteration of sailing around the world look like? What would be the first increment? And then what would be a second increment? And then, just these things. But the main
And do
point
they
of this.
actually, because because it's an interesting one. If you think about such a sales trip, you're still doing only the planning part. You're not doing the trip before you come back to the next part of the course or the next increment or
Yeah, yeah,
whatever.
yeah. But what they are trying to sell, let's say, a world, touring around the world on a sailboat. Yeah, that's
So
the
the
that's
product is really a kind of a holiday or some kind of trip that they're selling. Okay, that's a different thing that
yeah,
I
yeah, yeah,
didn't realize that at first. Okay, thanks
yeah.
for
And but
adding
but
that.
the point is less about the product, and it is more about working together as a team.
Yeah,
and
of course.
and instead of doing this manufacturing line way of thinking, where I start something and then I hand over to you, and then you hand over to the third person, and that person hands over to the fourth. We are pairing, we are working together to solve a problem. There will be conflicts, there will be ideas that are discarded, there will be ideas that are not appreciated by others, and how we form a team together. This is more about that than the outcome of the product. The product is not going to be used anywhere. It's just a means to get people to work together and experience working together in a team. That's why we give them an environment where they can actually try this.
Yeah, I really like that. But and I 100% agree. But for me, one of the things to when you actually create something, you are learning as well about it. So the more realistic the product you're making, the more realistic your team and your learnings are. Because if it's just something for the course, people might be ignoring the end product and not realizing that for example, they wouldn't challenge each other. If I see that sometimes with school projects where my children have to do something together, and there might be someone who don't care about the project, and they might yeah, I don't know, complain to us as parents, but wouldn't do the work to create a team to actually, yeah, make it work, because yeah, it's just a school project, and I can imagine with a real team, you want to get beyond that. How do you
Yes,
stimulate that?
yes. So basically what happens is, before onboarding people onto the course, we will we will explicitly tell them that, yes, 4 hours is the contact time between students and trainers, or students or teachers. But then you will need to set out and ensure that you can spend another at least 3 or 4 hours every week to work together without our guidance. And this is how we introduce the course to people, and we lay out the expectations that this is something that will happen throughout the course, and only come with us if you can sacrifice for an extra 3 or 4 hours every week into learning Scrum and into doing something together.
And how do people react that when they do that, and one of the other participants is not pulling the full work?
Of
Did that
course it
ever
will.
happen?
Of course it does. Yes, of course it does. Life happens. People have kids. People have important hobbies that they really, really don't want to give up, and then they find a way. There will be conflict between the team members, and that has happened on each iterations of this course. This is now the sixth or seventh iterations that we are doing. There is always conflict about availability. There is nearly always conflict about that, and people
Yeah,
take
and
it to the
go ahead.
retrospective. People take it to the retrospective. They discuss it. They come up with their own team rules and all that stuff, and then they go on and they will try it better in the next sprint. And yes, there will be some hard feelings by the end of the course because of what happened a month ago when you weren't available for the sprint, but they are resolved. And we just keep reminding people that this is a simulation. But the big selling point of this course is that you can experience something like Scrum, that is something that is very close to a real world product building endeavor.
I really like that. Yeah, it's for me something that is really one of the most valuable ways of doing it, building a product and indeed understanding it. And my father used to say when I give training with him is like the more you put into it's like you don't have to believe in the sea, but you have to get in to get wet. And yeah, if you want to experience it, you have to jump in.
Yeah,
And yeah, that's
basically what happens is that there is very little trust at the beginning that they can do it together. We are asking them to join forces and start building a product together in maybe at the end of week 2.
mhm.
Yeah, at the end of the second week, they have just had like what, 8 hours together over Zoom. And do I need to start working together with these people? But it is so strange because building a product unites them, gives them a sense of purpose. It unites them, and they start actually working together. And I always set more constraints and try to say you can't work alone on the product. You need to pair with somebody, or you need at least two people need to be in the Zoom call when you're working on the product. That's one of the constraints that I often give, even when there are few people in the course. Work together with somebody else, and it's so amazing because we get to know each other through the work we do. We
Oh
get to
yeah, we do.
understand we get to understand the other person's way of thinking, and somehow I have also noticed that when people work together in the same time and the same virtual space, there will be less conflicts because they just need to agree first, and then at least two people out of a team of 5 already have agreement between them, and that's a good thing.
Okay, that's yeah, that's indeed how teamwork works and how most of us learn by doing something. And yeah, about that's I really like that when people do that, make these kind of courses. It takes a big investment both from you and from the students. But yeah, again, well, the other word or sentence I like to do is that the more it's for me that reminds me a little bit about if you want to do some kind of ad hoc uh, meal with your friends. The more you invest in bringing food, the better the food you bring, the better it will be for everybody. If
Yeah,
everybody puts their effort to bring in something nice, then we will have much more. If you don't invest something, well, maybe we won't invite you next time that we have a party over, and or yeah, that's yeah. I think this
Yeah,
is
we
wonderful.
always, that is one of the things that we call out at at the very first session. You get you get only out, the only thing that you will get out from this course is what you put in. So if you are hovering over it and not jumping into this course, then you are going to get little out of it. If you jump into it head first and you make yourself vulnerable, you show up as a human person, then you will have, in during the journaling time which we offer during the course, you will have a lot to reflect on. If you don't jump into this and you stay neutral and you stay out of it, then you will have very little to reflect on.
Wow, it's yeah, wonderful way of doing it. Okay, I want to move to that next question. What, and because this is a very passionate conversation, this is, I really feel that drive. So you know what drives you, where that drive is coming from?
I just I'm always amazed when I hear, Günther Verheyen had a talk, maybe 1 or 2 years ago, about how disengaged people are at work, and he brought in data from Gallup and other research companies showing that I don't know what percentage of the workforce in the US is actively disengaged, which means they are knowingly harming the environment they work in to they cause difficulties willingly. And that is something astonishing that I always that I just get very, um I don't know is the sadness that I get about it. No, it's I'm just feel frustrated, and I just don't understand why that happens. And
Angry, is that also a possibility as a word, or is that too strong?
no, 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 I'm not angry. I think I do feel sorry about them, and I feel confused that this happens. Uh, and I just feel that, what drives me is that I want to make sure that people enjoy work, and I want to reconnect them what they, at maybe one point, they loved doing. Yeah, because I'm pretty sure that people start out at work, probably loving what they do, and then somehow they burn out and they don't love to do it anymore, and their job keeps them hostage. And I and I think that's the last place you want to be in. That's the
You
last
don't want
place
to be
you want to be in.
hostage by
No.
your own job. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So what drives me is how can I create an environment where humans are connected to the work that they do, and how can I create an environment where working in a human way is possible, when we can talk to each other on normal, maybe friend terms, or as proper humans, to human communication. That's what matters to me. Yeah, when we are both on the same equal level, and this is not a parent child conversation, this is an adult conversation. And
Right.
that's where I want to get to. um
Yeah, and that is, yeah, I can definitely see that. It's yeah, I had a yeah, I had a real good book about the whole dynamics that we have in the yeah, how to get out of the parent child, because sometimes, well, people behave as a child, and then you start, you almost automatically are drawn to the parent role where you don't want
yes,
that. And sometimes I work with managers that by work almost automatically as a parent, and then they're confused that everybody around them is acting as a
as a
child.
child,
And
exactly.
yeah, that's the kind of yeah, the dynamic that plays. And I want people to behave as adults, and I will treat them as adults. And it's, yeah, I've worked with a couple of people who had the tendency to keep going to the child, and it's so dawning, and I have to do a lot of the work to keep working and waking and staying in the adult role. And I'm not always, yeah, I wasn't always good at that. I failed a lot of it, and I would say, but it's so amazing when it's possible to do that, that once actually to see that, oh, okay, the more I act as an adult, the more people will
Mm.
behave as an adult. And if you
Yes.
say that you would do something, I trust you that you would do. And if you don't,
Mm.
okay, I will just, well, okay, I might remind you one or two times, but I will keep, yeah, expecting you to behave as an adult in that kind of thing. So that's,
Hmm.
yeah, that is really, and that, yeah, it's, I really like that part of the story. And of course, you already talked a little bit earlier on about the drive that you got from being born in your country, that there is a lot of drive there as well, I would say.
Hmm.
And that with all the stories that you shared, I already see that popping in, I would
Hmm.
say, in many times. So thanks for
Yeah.
sharing this.
So the main message is that a more humanistic approach at work is possible. That's where that's my mission. I think that's my calling.
That's, well, thank you for doing that for all of us, I would say. Even if you do it in just a little corner of the world, I think the more people are doing it, the more, yeah, people around us will behave in an adult way. And yeah, because I think it's indeed sometimes a challenging world. So the more humanistic
Hmm.
we treat the people around us, the better that is also for everyone.
Hmm.
I want to move to that next question. What is the biggest achievement? And before I jump to that question, I also want to what I've noticed these days is that there is actually a question below, is that this is your moment to brag, to shine. And is that easy for you as a person to brag about yourself?
No, it's it's never. I don't think that's true. No, um, I no, it's not good. I have hard time taking in positive feedback.
Mm,
I have a hard time doing that. And what I'm reading about this is that most people that really try to make who really try and work in an ethical way, they really throw themselves into the work and maybe achieve a lot. They don't like to hear what they achieved, and they how do I explain that? It just makes them uncomfortable, and they will say, "It wasn't me; it was the circumstances around me." I have
mhm,
seen that a lot in people when they say, "No, that was just by luck that I achieved this." Uh, and that's what I also tell myself and others. I am really lucky to be in the position I am. uh, I didn't start out as a Scrum Master, as an Agile coach. I started out as a technical writer. That was that. When I look back in my career, I thought that I would die being a technical writer, and then a fortunate change of events led me to becoming a Scrum Master. I was appointed by my team to be their Scrum Master, and that's where it all turned. But the biggest, maybe this could be a big achievement. I think, when the team selects you to become their Scrum Master, and when the environment you work in as a technical writer who is really, that's the guy who is doing the documentation. Your team and your environment selects you and asks you, "Hey, would you like to try this?" And I answered, "Yes, I would love to try this. So let's see what's beyond."
mm.
That is definitely achievement. Another achievement is this course that
And
we
wait,
have.
wait, before you jump into that, so how easy was it for you to take on that challenge? Because your team is picking you in a way. Did you immediately say yes? Was that the moment that you said, "Whoa, I feel recognized," or will you at first like, "Oh, what's happening?" Could you say some more about that?
I think it was, whoa, I feel recognized, and
Mm,
and this is coming together now, or this is something is happening that is going to be foundational for me. um, so basically the story is that I was doing technical writing for a product that one Scrum team was developing. This was a small company, and let's say 80% of them were developers, so very little overhead in the organization. It was 13 developers put in two teams, and they were being scrum mastered by the same developer, and and we were working on one single product, and there was no organizational faff around us, or not too much. uh, and
Or you didn't feel it.
or I didn't feel it. That's also possible. Yeah, I was a technical writer that time. Yeah, and I, as a technical writer, I joined their retrospective because I was a team member. Our definition of done was at that time that I document whatever they were producing, whatever value they were delivering in the same sprint. I will do the customer documentation of that, and. And I also joined their retrospectives, and during the retrospectives, they realized, or they noticed, that I'm trying to be an arbiter between in a conflict. I was trying to mediate that conflict. I was trying to get them to come to a shared understanding, a shared ground which they both agree on. And there was a pattern in me doing this. And they first encouraged, like, anybody can lead a retrospective. So Gabor, if you want to try, you can try a retrospective. And then I remember that there was this big challenge on the team. I don't know what it was about, but I just remember that we were like arguing about this for weeks and weeks and weeks. And then I took them to a separate room, and we did this constellations exercise, where there is the constellation of it's like there is a central place. Maybe you put down a cushion or something like that, and that would be the center piece on the room. And then you read out a statement, and if it applies to you, you come closer to the cushion, or to the cushion. And when it doesn't apply to you, you move further away. And the people are moving like constellations of a solar system, because
Mhm.
that cushion is the center of the solar system. And I was just reading up a couple of sentences about the challenge that we were facing at that time. Some sentences is about how we want to work together. Some sentences about how we want to show up in the team. And what happened was that after a couple of constellations rounds, the people went back to the room, and they cracked the problem. They solved it, and they retrospectively said that me getting them out of their usual meeting room environment into a space where they can move, where they can see where everybody else is in these with these sentences, it has helped them to come to consensus about the challenge. And shortly after this, I was asked, "Hey, Gabor, don't you want to try being a Scrum Master?" So that's how it started. That's how it started.
But
And I
yeah,
I think and
it's
that's when
really
the
the
team.
value that people see from you taking actions. It's not you convincing them. It's really, yeah, taking actions, with them, that convince these people, like, hey, okay, there is, yeah, there is value there. So that's wonderful if you can be, yeah, selected in that way, I would say. So
And
so
because
yeah,
of because there was not much organizational faff around us, we didn't really need to go out to HR and explain that Gabor is going to be doing this work now, and da da da. Uh, it was a very forgiving environment in that sense.
and that's, yeah, that I really like that part that you stress that, because it also means that it feels much more safe to try it on. Because if you
Mhm.
would need to go to HR and officially ask that role, okay, what happens if I can't do it? And so, yeah, I've
Yeah.
seen,
Will I be
uh,
fired?
exactly, that's what I'm hearing. And I personally prefer, I try to tell people, like, okay, if we can come in an environment where we can give people the chances of trying out the role and not having it officially. If it's needed for HR, and some companies it is, let's wait. Let's give this person a couple of weeks, months, whatever we need to do an experiment, and then make it only officially afterwards. That releases a lot of stress. Strangely enough, I've noticed that then many people say, "Yeah, but I need to have it officially because blah blah blah," and then they
Yeah.
don't want me to don't want to pay me. But actually, what they don't realize, it gives them much more stress, because will they fire me if I'm not good at it? Will what happens? And
Mhm.
even if and I do think that the less baggage around there is, the more freedom there is for people to experiment with their roles and
Exactly. Yeah.
to try out some of that stuff. So yeah, thanks
Yeah.
for sharing that part, because
Yeah.
I think it's a crucial ingredient of that success that you had, that
Mhm.
you felt like, okay, this is my team supporting me. Nobody else needs to, well, probably they needed to know, but not at the level that let's sign documents and let's sign in blood and whatever. And that,
Yeah, it
well,
was nothing like that. It was just Gabor is now a technical writer, and then additionally, he's also the Scrum Master. And at that environment, I just learned more about what good looks like in a Scrum team,
mhm,
because that team was really, really amazing one, and because it was the ideal setup. Yeah, very little organizational overhead, one product, one or two teams max working on the same product. Everybody knows everybody, a small team of developers with one singular focus. It was amazing.
mhm. Now there is a surprise. That's why it was created, and how when we see it work in many different
Hmm.
ways when you
Yeah.
create that environment around it. So thanks
Hmm.
for sharing that story, because it's yeah, it's what more people should experience and see. Okay,
Yeah,
this
not
is,
many experience this. Not many are as lucky as I am.
yeah, and you kind of created a similar kind of experience in a training setting,
Yeah.
but yeah, it still is a little more artificial than the real deal that you got into.
Yeah.
So it's nice that you're already paying stuff forward that people can experiment with,
Hmm.
and maybe one day you will be able to do the exact thing like what happened to you to other people, and that might work as well.
Hmm.
Let's move to that next question. Um, do you have a personal agility tip to share with us?
Well, yes, probably one thing that I would advise is, we are putting together this training that I was talking about previously with a partner of mine. Our partnership is a strange one because I'm based in the UK and he's based in Hungary. It is very important for me to give back, to share this thing that I have in me to with my fellow citizens of Hungary. Yeah, so I often fly back to Budapest like 2 or 3 times a year, and whenever I'm there, we always come together. And I really love how it was his idea that we put together a training like this, and I really loved how incremental we started this, incremental and iterative.
Mm,
We are never doing the same training, and I really loved how nimble we started out. We had two, on the first pilot of this, we had two of his colleagues and one person that was interested, and it was a very small pilot. And I really wanted to get into training, but I never knew how to start. And it is his approach, his sort of entrepreneurial thinking, that really helped me become better at training. And that is the message that I want to amplify. The tip is that you start small, and then you iterate on it. And because I before that, I was the person, like, it needs to be perfect. The first
mm.
time we are trying this
I'm
training.
starting something new. I need to be the best in it
Of
right from the
course.
start.
Yes, yes. That was my approach, and the tip I learned from my partner is that no, we don't even need to make a profit in the first instance. We just try this. And he's really bringing in this entrepreneurial spirit that I'm now learning from him. And that's the most important thing that I can share, is just you just start small, and then based on the feedback, based on how it goes, you iterate, and then you try better next time. And we are doing the sixth or seventh iteration of this course, and it is completely different from the first time when we did this in October 2022. And it gets better and better and better, and we are using more and more tools. We are doing new things in the training, because I would be very tired of serving the same meal every day. So and I just love it. It really keeps me on my toes. I love doing this.
Thanks for sharing that, because I think yeah, it's so crucial that that indeed we do it in this way. And like you say, it's never the same. Also for you, that keeps it interesting, I would say. And the more interesting it
Absolutely.
is for you, the more energized you are, and the better it is then for your
Hell yes,
students
exactly.
in every way. And at the same time, it also means that yes, you also acknowledge to your students, like I'm keep learning. Yeah, I've been. I think this is such a logical thing in doing trainings. But somehow I see I've once coached a person who is a really good agile coach, also technical, really good, and he was thinking about going into a completely different industry where he actually was already
Hmm.
kind of doing something. So as into theater, so so really a completely different thing. And one of
Wow.
his big
Okay.
challenges was for him because he wanted to be good right from the start. And so and when we talked and like, okay, how did you do? And but um, the level of professionalism that he had in his current job, or that current job at that time, he wanted to be that same level, the same, yeah, that was where the bar was, in a new industry where he totally, well, he knew a little bit about it, but okay, this is, I want to move in that. So yeah, where do you keep the bar that high? You were never that good when you started out in the first job
Hmm.
before, and in all the other things you did before, and he really knew that. And at the same time, it was so hard to let go, because like, yeah, like you say, you start on something, you really think, oh, I want to be that. And of course, if I'm going to teach, it should be really good, because
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
I'm going
different.
to convince the people that they should train with me, and so I should be really good right from day one, and it should be perfect. But no, it can never be perfect. You need to build it up and go bigger. So that's, yeah, that's so nice as a story to share. And thanks
Hmm.
for, yeah, acknowledging also your business partner in that, because that's yeah. And I assume that when I would talk to that person, they would bring good stuff about what they've learned from you as well.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
that's
We are like peas in a pod. He brings the organizational thinking, and the structures, and I bring a lot of the creativity, and we are learning from each other in this way. It's a great partnership.
that's nice to hear. I want to move to that next question about remote work. And so, well, most of us, we had to switch to remote work a couple of years ago. But did you do remote work before that? Was there any remote work in your life
Before COVID hit. Yeah.
before COVID? I was thinking, will I still pronounce the word or not?
Why wouldn't you? I think it's a.
Yeah, I know, I know.
I think COVID was a generational moment for us, everybody, and it is something that I can only liken to, or compare to, 2001, September 11, and moon landing, and Kennedy being assassinated. When they announced that on the news, probably everybody has that moment. That
Hmm.
I remember what I was doing that day when it was announced, and I think most of
Oh
us
yeah.
remember what happened on the day that they when they announced that your country will be closed down. Well, I remember what I was doing. I was 3 weeks into a new role, and every day until then we had to go in. We were going into the office. It's not like we had to, but why? That's where we work. I mean,
Hmm.
that's where I work, and I do not have a lot of experience working remotely before that. Maybe 1 or 2 days from home a week. That was all where I worked from home, and I commuted to an office every day. Uh, you know, you know, in most cases 5 times out of 5 a week, and in some cases, in very few cases, 4 or 3 days out of the 5, I went to an office. Um, so I did not really have that much remote working experience before COVID, but then it everything changed.
And so, was there anything that you, or maybe let's come to that the other part. You still know what you did. Could you say something about that day or something about that week? Maybe it's more a week than a day, or
I think at that time I worked for a private healthcare company. So
so you were in the business where COVID hit like most, I would say.
exactly, yeah, 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 yeah. And what happened was that people were angry, and people were frustrated because the company didn't allow working from home previously. And
Mm,
how can we be a private healthcare company, and how can we look reasonable, and how can we look professional when you are still forcing us into the office when this thing is just in the back door, and
right.
this thing is coming. And the we how we could avoid this is you announce that if you want to work from home, you can. And then I think what happened was that the company allowed us to work from home, and the next day the government mandated us to be working from home. So
Wow. So you were just ahead of them, just a
just
bit.
ahead of them. But I just remember a lot of frustrated co-workers who said, I don't feel safe coming to an office and meeting hundreds and hundreds of people in the elevators, on the floors of the building, and whatever. I don't want to come to the office. And we should recognize that it is not good, and we need to do better, and you need to say you can work from home as effective tomorrow. And then I think that's what happened for 1 or 2 days. Some of us went to the office, I went to the office, and then soon it was like mandated that everybody goes home and works from home. And my manager said, okay, Gabor, take care. And I thought that this would be over in 2 weeks or maybe 6, and I did not expect that it would be that we wouldn't be returning into the office like ever.
Mm. Yeah, but it's yeah, I really like the fact that you say people were already worrying about that, and I do remember having a conversation. This is why I said a week, because I was remembering a conversation with my boss, or I think even with the boss of my boss on a Monday, like, okay, what do we do? Remote work and whatever. And it's like, no, this is a company we will never work remotely. That's just this is not an option. That's not even on the table. Where I
Hmm.
saw the people around me, including myself, like, okay, do we? Yeah, how do we want to continue? We were still organizing a big planning meeting with hundreds of people, so even
Okay.
there, I might was not really. Yeah, we were worried, and at the same time, we were doing things. What we did do, we did have a large scale version of the ball game. I don't know if you know that. The ball game, we had a large scale version
Hmm.
planned, and that we didn't do because we realized we don't want to be throwing balls to hundreds of people. Let's not do that.
Hmm.
Um, and that was, I think, on Tuesday and Wednesday that we did the planning, and on Thursday the government said you have to work from home from tomorrow on. And on
Was it
Monday, the boss said this
It
is
would never
this is
happen.
a company where we don't allow that, and then all of a sudden it was mandated by the Belgian government, and we had to
Mm.
do it. And I came in on Friday, and we were already like, okay, this is how we organize ourselves. This is how you can take this home and that home. Was like the exact same person that told me on Monday we can't do it was already organizing it on Friday. So he made a huge mental shift. I
Yeah,
didn't even have to mention to him like on Monday. He said no. He realized, but yeah, it was like you say, people all of a sudden we click, and
flip.
that's.
Yeah.
So, what did you learn from all of that?
What I learned, I think, is that you have to be more intentional in your engagements, and more intentional in connecting to people. That has become the number one challenge for me, because I really need it. As a scrum master, you either have one-to-ones with your team members or you don't. Uh, in a physical environment, because you see them every day, and your one-to-ones will not happen in the calendar. Your one-to-ones will happen in the kitchen, in during lunch, or in after one of the meetings. You sit down and you talk to them about stuff that bothers them, that you spot. And then no, this didn't work anymore. There had to be a lot more intentional focus on reaching out to people, especially because it was a new environment for me. I was 3 weeks in the job when COVID hit, and of course I didn't know anybody. I didn't know my teammates.
Oh yeah,
So
that's really hard.
yeah, so I started in at the end of February, maybe 20th of February, and COVID was announced. Working from home and remote working was announced on 15th of March, or something like that.
Mhm.
And I just had 3 weeks or maximum a month to get to know my colleagues. So I was just, walking from one person to the next. I was doing my introductory one-to-ones when it was announced that you need to work from home. So I needed to I needed to put in the effort to talk to people and get to know them, and create an environment online, which, in the first couple of instances, this online game started, online whatever started, just to make sure that people are still connected with each other. And I think there was a lot of intention about that. There might have been a lot of grumbling and frustration. Oh my God, forced fun. Yeah, that is something that people shiver about when they hear that.
Oh
We are
yeah.
going to we are going to do a drawing game in one of these online platforms where you need to draw something and the others need to guess. That's going to be cringe. And it might be cringe for the first and the second time, but by the third time, people actually start to like it, or they will come up with better solutions, better offerings in to achieve the same purpose. We were doing what is this pub quizzes on Fridays afternoons, and a lot of other things, just to make sure that the people are still there and still engaged. And I think
Yeah,
the
the
main the
intentional
main
part.
thing is the intention. Intention to connect people is still there. It needs to be there.
I really like that, and it's yeah, and I think it's like you explained when you walk around at the new job, you walk in the offices and you see, oh, this is a person I haven't spoken to. You can actually go do that remote. Well, you basically have to know the people. Okay, if I'm in some kind of remote environment tool, I can look at all these people, but who are parts of my department and who are not, that's already a challenge finding out. And yeah, and how do I connect for the first time a
And
person? Yeah,
who is in a big project right now, and I shouldn't be disturbing them.
exactly,
and
that's
and and and, and who can I reach out to in the morning? Who can I reach out to in the afternoon? More like,
oh yeah, that's
yeah,
that's
it's like,
really who are the morning and the afternoon people, and
you
when
don't
is there
know.
moment that
You don't know.
what's the moment that people are in a zone and want to focus, you don't know. And where in the office, yeah, I always try to sit near to a coffee machine where people automatically they come, and then okay, then you know that they're on a break, so then you can intentionally have a chat with them,
Yes,
and that brings so much difference. And remote, you have to figure this all out, and that with people that you don't know, that is really hard. Yeah,
exactly.
I can, yeah, and I still think it's a challenge that is real for many people. Like, with people you already know, working remote is already hard, but with people you don't know how to create that connection, and then yeah, getting to that intentional work you need to do, again, work to do the work. You need to do work to get to know people, and to know better how they perform best for their own sake,
Mhm.
when to leave them alone and things like that. So thanks for sharing all of that. I want to move to that next question. What is a book you have read? And I'm really, I would say, looking forward to your answer, because you didn't share with me the book before. So I'm really now curious about what you're
Yeah,
thinking about.
because I didn't know. I was thinking about a number of books that I could bring in, and before this call, I actually thought that I would be talking about The Artful Making, which is a book that Tobias Mayer recommended
Hmm.
that I read, and I'm sure a lot of people have read it and have liked it. But actually, when you were asking the question, I glanced over to the corner of the table, and that's where the answer is.
Hmm.
The answer is this: it's a it's a it's a book that is very dear to me. It is a children's book, and and it brings those childhood memories back, and that um, I can thank this book a lot, because I created my first ever storytelling workshop using
Hmm.
this children's book, and and yeah, maybe this is a book that has fundamentally shifted my how I'm being perceived in the Scrum and Agile community.
Okay. And could you give explanations, or could you tell a little
Yeah,
more?
of course, I can unpack this. Uh, Tobias Mayer runs this Scrum Exchange, which is an open, an unconference format. Yeah, so practitioners come together on a Friday morning, and we grid out some wall space using tape. We have a couple of rooms where people can go to, and we put together a schedule for the day, what
Hmm.
events are going to be offered in what rooms at what times, and it's a very on the spot agenda that people come with, and previously Charles Louis, who is a Belgian professional Scrum in the Scrum and Agile space. He did a storytelling workshop maybe in 2018 on one of these events, and I thought I will bring in the first story of this book, and I will read it to people, and I will ask them a question: why is this character like a Scrum Master? and and that's what I did, and people found a lot of fun in that, and that's where I thought maybe bringing in folk tales and children's stories to into the agile space, something from that heritage that I was already talking about in the first part of this video. I can introduce them to that, because there is not much. I just find it strange that, or not strange, but maybe I'm curious about this, that in this day of age, kids learn from artificial characters like Peppa Pig and Marvel and DC and all that stuff, uh, the comics, and there is little or less talk about stories that have a bit more tradition about them, that go back to hundreds of years, that are not made up on on the spot. That's not a comic. And I think that there is some richness about those characters. There is some familiarity with those characters, and we can learn a lot from them and how they perceive life and how they resolve their challenges. um, so that's what I started to do, and it all started with this book. I have started to offer storytelling workshops where I play uh, cartoons of Hungarian folk tales, and then we talk about them. uh, and I just started doing this because this is also an interesting part of our craft, I guess.
Yeah, I really like. Yeah, and I think storytelling for me is the one thing that AI won't be able to do that for us. It's
Okay.
really bringing that storytelling and working in these things. And of course, we can ask AI to write stories, but I think that the storytelling craft is something to bring when people bring something and bring it back to the books that we read, bring it back to the experiences and
Mhm.
creating a metaphor around, like, yeah, some of the things you talked about here today, um, is really for me where a lot of value is. I think
Mhm.
it's and I think it's indeed a crucial part for being a good scrum master or a coach. It's like, okay, let's because then we take it again out of the experience, the day to day, but okay, let's bring it at a different level. Let's think about it out of the box. Then it's also, I would say, it feels less threatening when we talk about the real thing happening. It feels sometimes very stressful when we
Mhm.
talk about stuff. If we take it from the story level and the metaphor, people actually find their own solutions
Yes.
in different kind of ways, and I really like that kind of thing. So, and that's
Yeah.
all from and so. You talk about Tobias, about the open space. You talk about the workshop that Charles-Louis did. Um, the How did it come to you at that moment to think about that book? What
Uh,
did you have the book with you at that time, or how did it?
no, 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 no. So basically, the other thing that I want to do, or that's also driving me, is to familiarize people in the UK with Hungarian literature.
Mm,
And for that, I need to find pieces of work that are translated to English. And actually, this book is translated to English. And then I said, okay, let's pick up this book, or the Hungarian version, because why wouldn't I read it in my mother tongue, if that's the original author, that's the language they chose. And then I started reading the book, and I said, whoa, this is actually what a scrum master does. So I need to take this. This is an opportunity. I wanted to introduce Hungarian literature, and in that event, this will be a perfect way to start. And that's what happened. Another thing is what happened is that Hungarians have a poem that was written by one of the Hungarians author about the Bards of Wales. That's the title of the poem, the Bards of Wales. And since I live in the UK, I thought that makes it a bit more relatable to people if I the read a story about the Bards of Wales. And
mm,
because Wales is part of the UK, and it is about the feud and the conflict that the Welsh had between the English in the 12th century or in the 11th century. And it is a poem about that. And and I thought that because of the setting, because of the Welsh and English conflict, uh, people can can connect with it a bit easier, because it's set in the country where I am now.
mm.
Yeah, and that was the second attempt where I started to bring Hungarian literature to this space.
I really like that. It's because it's also shows how you care about both cultures. You care to bring in your
Yeah,
own
massively. Yeah.
background and own culture, but you also try to connect it with the culture of the country that you're living in at this particular
Yeah,
moment.
I'm trying to build bridges between that Eastern, it's not because you can say that I am like sharing my knowledge that I'm picking up here back to Budapest, back to Hungary, but I also want to take something from there and share it in the space in the UK where I now live. That's absolutely important for me. I act as a bridge.
There's a bridge between cultures. I like that. I like
Hmm.
that. I want to move to that next question. What is a question that you think I should also ask you, and what is the answer?
That's a good one. Yeah, I wish I knew the answer to this one. Is where what am I going to be doing in 5 years, and where will storytelling and this training, which is really the two focus areas of my life currently, they give me the most joy. They give me the most challenge these days outside work, because I work alongside this. I work at a consulting company, so I have a client where I work as a scrum master and an agile coach, and all this thing that I'm talking about that we have touched on today happens after working hours.
Mm,
But I'm really curious as to where this will take me in, let's say, 5 years. Where will children's book and children's tales take me, and where will that training of a 2 month journey about exploring scrum, where that will take me? That is something that I don't know the answer to, but I'm very curious about that.
it's yeah. And so, what came to you to bring this question? What triggered you to think about that and to yeah.
Well, I really feel that somehow in organizations these days there is less need for people like us.
Hmm.
We can see the layoffs, and we can hear about you know roles being made redundant, and I think that Scrum Master, and maybe to an extent, maybe Scrum is also going to be less important in the upcoming years. And therefore, because Scrum Master is an accountability of Scrum, maybe that is also on the down. At the same time, I do feel that there will still need to be people who help a team improve, who help an organization improve, who help an environment improve and get better. Maybe that person is not going to be called a Scrum Master, but that's where it is coming from, I guess. Is it still worth teaching and training Scrum Masters? And if yes, how is this going to evolve in the future? Is it still worth? Is it
Oops,
still
where's my
worth?
camera going?
Yes, hopefully it would be back.
Yeah, I will fix it, but keep talking, keep
Yeah,
talking.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So is it still worth teaching and training Scrum Masters in with such an effort that I'm putting into this, or is it still where will storytelling take me? Uh, and where will this acting as a bridge take me? And does this have a future? Is this necessary? Is this Will people find value in it? These are the questions that I'm struggling with, because I started this storytelling workshop sessions, and I had a couple of starts with it, but it is quite a challenge uh, to make people enroll to these things these days. I can see a lot less excitement about training days and training in general, that is also a concern. Tobias frequently talks about the idea that a couple of years ago, before COVID, he advertised a workshop and it was sold out within days, and 16 people came to an environment and appeared face to face in person. Now you can't really drum up 16 people online from all over the world when you when you don't have a concrete offering. And the thing is that I don't want to have a concrete offering. I want people to explore the story that's in the book. I want people to explore what it is in the story for them that's important. So the workshops that I'm offering, they don't have a specific learning outcome or a learning objective that I want people to get to by the end. It is whatever you take out of it. And I don't think people are fine with this sort of nebulousness, this sort of fuzziness of the workshops that I'm offering, but that might not be the case. I don't know.
All right. What I was saying is I didn't manage to bring my camera up, but I
Okay,
was
that's
always
fine.
here listening. Yeah, I really liked what you shared about Tobias, because I think, well, he brought it on here as well, that having, yeah, that classes and that the world has changed a lot.
Yeah.
I would say. Um, so, and that's that the world has changed, so
Hmm.
that's definitely is there. So thanks for bringing that multiple parts on, because I think many people indeed have that challenge. Yeah, the world has changed and we need to look for what are other ways how we can help people. I want to move to that next question, that yeah, who do you think I should ask next?
Yeah, I was thinking of one or two people.
Mhm.
Uh, One of them is Simon Reindl, who is an amazing Scrum trainer with Scrum.org, and I think he will have a couple of stories to share, uh, because
And
he
if
he
I'm correct, this is Simon, right?
yes, he's Simon. He's Simon. And then the other person.
And so when you think about Simon, why should I bring him on?
Simon has an Simon has an attitude. Yeah, so I really love how Simon is so different from me. Simon is
Hmm.
very direct and very outspoken, and I really love how he's different from me, how he is different from me, and how he keeps challenging me and others and keep us on our toes, even when I have very little direct relationship with Simon. But I keep thinking about him a lot, and I
Hmm.
frequently ask myself, like, what would Simon Reindl do in this position? so so yeah, Simon is that person who would be a good interviewee on this Who is Agile series.
Thanks for yeah, indeed, then bringing him on, and yeah, having people opinionated, or yeah, having really bringing thoughts is always nice to have. So thanks for thinking about Simon. And you said you had at least one more person, if I'm correct, who else?
Yeah. Francis Lellman
I
is
think that's Francis, if I'm
that's
correct.
Francis, exactly. Yeah, that's Francis, and Francis is just an amazing person, and again, very not like Simon. uh,
Hmm.
Francis lives in. I think he now lives in Singapore. He has lived in Belgium. I think originally he's
Yes,
Belgian,
he's Belgium.
and he has lived at so many different parts of the world, and so he explored so much about storytelling and facilitation, and he keeps sharing those nuggets in his workshops. He's just an amazing facilitator. He can turn anything into facilitation. I learned a lot from Simon and Tobias about facilitation and how we show up as facilitators, not knowing. I think that's pretty big for both of them, not knowing, which doesn't mean winging it. It means being at ease with complexity and being at ease with change.
I really like that. It's indeed sometimes people think that when there is no structured agenda, that it's completely winging, but actually facilitating is a lot more preparation, and it's not just like you talked about earlier about open space. It is. Yes, we co-create the agenda, but that doesn't mean that there is no intention, that we don't know anything. And there's actually some very
We
strict is
will
maybe
just
the wrong word, but there are rules and
There are
yeah,
rules, but it
guidance.
will but we give space for emergence, and that's what
Exactly.
matters, that it emerges. And when I was talking about my storytelling workshops, they just emerge. Therefore, I need all my tools in my toolkit as a facilitator, and I will need to prepare maybe more than one option, more than one exercise, or more than one theme I need to prepare for.
Mhm. That's and I think Francis has indeed brought a lot of um, tools to the world, and well, from the world to the rest of us, I would say,
Mhm.
in a way, being at ease with complexity and being
Oh
at ease
yes.
with everything that's going on in that
Mhm.
might turn people into how would I say it? Yeah, off their feet if they have a very strict agenda when everything is like now it's kind of the opposite. And in that way, he has way more control, or the facilitation is way more. You feel much more at ease with everything that's happening.
Mhm.
So thanks
Yeah.
for sharing that. It's been really wonderful to hear these stories and to hear a lot of your world. If people want to connect again with you later on, what's the best way for people to connect with you?
Yeah, LinkedIn is the go-to, I guess. That would be the easiest.
And that's I think the LinkedIn that's the link to in LinkedIn. That's what I wanted to say.
Yes.
Well, thanks for this early morning conversation. I think by now I don't know what it is in your, but I'm looking now at a lot of sun. So while there was already some sun while we started out, but now I
Mhm.
see a lot of sun. I see my family
It will
already
be a
trying
lot
to go
better,
out,
yes.
and so thanks for having this early Sunday morning
Mhm.
conversation with me, and I just want to thank you for this time.
Yeah, thank you. It was a great Sunday morning. It was a good Sunday morning to spend time with you, and thank you for the opportunity again.
Well, it's a nice way to start the day that way. So yeah,
Exactly.
I
Breakfast is
I send
awaiting.
you exactly. I was about to say I send you away to your family or to breakfast and to whatever you want to do on
Mhm.
this Sunday.
Yes. Thank you very much. Take care. Goodbye.
See you.
Thank
Bye
you for
bye.
watching Who's Agile, where the stories of Agilists come to life. I hope you liked today's interview. Subscribe if you're not subscribed and want to get to know other Agilists.